Invention, my dear friends, is 93% perspiration, 6% electricity, 4% evaporation, and 2% butterscotch ripple. Welcome to Primary Technology, the show about the tech news that matters. We got a big show this week. AirTag 2 snuck in under the radar. Creator Studio is now out with kind of a mixed rollout. Tesla's going to stop making 2 of their cars to make robots. Apple TV got a big deal coming soon. Sonos finally released some new hardware. And we got some news about ChatGPT, vCloud, and all the AI stuff. This episode is brought to you by Framer and Copilot Money, and of course, all of you, the members who support us directly. I'm one of your hosts, Stephen Robles, and joining me also in the freezing cold, my friend Jason Aten. How's it going, Jason?
It's good. I mean, it's 63 degrees in my office right now, which is fine. And the only reason it's 63 is because then it's not blowing on me.
I'm going to ask you right here at the top so I don't forget. Do you know where that quote is from? We start every show with
I want to make you repeat the whole thing, but I'm not going to.
I can do it. Invention, my dear friends, is 93% perspiration, 6% electricity, 4% evaporation, and 2% butterscotch ripple.
What's the Chocolate Factory movie? The one with
what is the
Willy Wonka? Is that the name of it?
Yes, it's Willy Wonka.
And the Chocolate Factory or whatever? Okay.
Yes, I thought, Creator Studio.
I can just picture him. I can't even think of the name of the actor right now, but I can totally picture him.
I'm going to have to, hold on. I'm going to have to look it up because I can't think of it either, and someone's going to yell at us. Hold on. Who is not Johnny Depp, Gene Wilder.
Yes, I was going to say Gene Hackman, totally not the same thing.
That would have been a very different Willy Wonka.
Oh, my goodness.
Very different Willy Wonka.
Amazing. Okay.
All right, we have some 5-star reviews, then we have a ton of news, and you have some listener feedback that I've been stressing about this entire time. You should listen to our pre-show. I think we talked about podcasting in our pre-show, a very meta pre-show, but it was a really good pre-show. You can do that if you support the show at join.primarytech.fm or directly in Apple Podcasts. But 5-star review shout-outs, multiple people from Ireland, believe it or not. So Ireland is showing out today.
It's because we had a layover there unexpectedly, so we've really done our work to bring in that crowd. So
that's right. That's exactly right. Philip from Ireland said, "Great work, Stephen and the other guy." Yes. He knew it was a joke. He said that. Ben Southwood Stories, also from Ireland, said we make tech productivity accessible for the everyday consumer. That's what we hope to do. Thank you for that. Zoolander Bot from the USA said we're an awesome show. And then Luke Ireland, I don't know if he's from Ireland, but his last name is Ireland. Luke Ireland changed his review back to a 5-star review, so thank you, Luke. But yeah, thank you to all those. We get a shout out if you give us a 5-star rating review in Apple Podcasts. One day we'll get to 1,000 5-star ratings. That'll be awesome.
It'll be amazing.
All right, tell me about this feedback. You said you got listener feedback.
Steven.
I need to know what happened.
I was distraught about it for a while, and then I told you during the pre-show that I was going to give you this feedback, and you got distraught about it, which made me happier. So here's the thing. I got a piece of feedback from a listener that says, "I now know why they call you the other guy." And I was like, okay, where is this going to go? And he said, I went back through the last 10 short videos that were shared on Instagram and on YouTube Shorts. And did you realize that Steven never lets you talk in those videos? And I said, and so I went back and looked, and I'm like, oh yeah, Steven only posts quotes of himself. He never, ever posts a single clip from me. And then the person's closed by saying, "Do you think you're about to get replaced?"
No. Oh, my word.
I said, no, okay. I'm pretty sure I'm not getting replaced. I'm good.
Okay, I don't feel bad about this at all because No. Because here's why. I am a solo creator. I have no one helping me do any of my creator business except
I'm just AI.
Except one thing, which is posting shorts of this show. Because I just could not have the bandwidth to do one more video thing. And so I do pay a friend to basically click magic clips in Riverside and post those videos on YouTube Shorts and Instagram and all of that. So I honestly have no idea what shorts go out. I see them post. And so this is great because this is now I can give this feedback to the one person that I'll say is on my team who does the one task, which is make shorts of this video. And I'll say, please only post videos of Jason.
Please don't only post videos of Jason. And it's pretty clear that I am not the person that he's paying to post these clips. It was actually very funny. I think that the person just was scrolling through our feed or something and was like, oh, and I was like, I just don't have that good of takes. It's easy.
No,
this is the reason why.
At all. I just think they're all bad takes. No, I'm just kidding.
That's also true.
I'm going to tell her, please, but 9 times out of 10, post Jason. And then one time you could post me. I'll change that. But thank you for that's good feedback though, because you bring a lot of knowledge to the show, and so we need to share.
I am the other guy for a reason.
I'm being sincere. All right. Well, thank you for that feedback. You'll see different shorts now going forward. But look, a couple quick things. I'm just going to mention. I got the Black Unity watch band. This Apple released a new watch band on Monday. It looks really cool, so I'm going to unbox that later. And also, I'm just going to throw this out here. AirTag 2 snuck in under the radar at the beginning of this week. Newsroom release, Monday, AirTag 2. I have them. Did you get any? Did you get any AirTag 2?
Tell me, okay, I mean this sincerely.
Yes.
Tell me why we should care. No. Like, it's an AirTag. It has better Bluetooth, and you can find it from farther away. Is that basically the story?
And it's a little louder. Basically, this is one of those upgrades where it's like you should not replace all your current AirTags with new AirTags. Like, don't do that. But if you're going to buy a new AirTag, now you get a better one. It's 50% farther finding, so 50% greater range. The speaker is 50% louder, but Apple says you can hear it from twice as far away, which that math doesn't seem to work out. But
I mean, except for dB scales are like logarithmic, so it probably does make sense.
See, this is the kind of shorts content where you say dB and logarithmic. That's what we need. That's going to get us to go viral on TikTok. So anyway, we can share the short of that.
I really hope not, but okay.
Well, and so someone else, this was Karagana on social media, said that they changed the pitch. This was on X. They changed the pitch of the AirTag sound to be an F to a G. So it raised a whole step musically. That would be 50 cents if you want to be technical.
2 semitones.
Thank you. So it went from an F to a G. And so I'm going to test that. I think I'm going to maybe make a short and play piano over the AirTag to see if it actually matches the key. But anyway, so 50% greater range. They changed the tone to a higher pitch. They made the speaker a little louder. The Bluetooth is more secure. Again, don't replace your AirTags if you already have them. But they're out there. AirTag 2 has been rumored for like 2 years, and so they're finally out. So
okay,
that's all that is.
Great. I saw that, and I'm like, okay, it's not really a new AirTag. It's just got a little bit more features,
a little bit more juice, and it's basically not like I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, the same shape. It didn't change shape. So if you have like AirTag key rings, or if you have a wallet that you slide an AirTag in, it's the same size, so it's nothing changed. But yeah, it's a spec bump of an AirTag.
That's the most interesting thing to get a spec bump is an AirTag.
I mean,
hold on. Did you imagine? Okay, I think there was a rumor that there was going to be new AirTags.
For 2 years, there's been this rumor, the AirTag 2.
Do you think that? Because like an AirTag is a thing you buy and you put it on your luggage or throw it in your backpack or put it on your key ring, and you just don't ever think about it again, except for when you're like, where are my keys? Oh, thank goodness I have an AirTag on them.
Exactly.
And then every once in a while you get a notification on your phone, basically once a year, saying change the battery.
That's it. Yep.
Okay. That is the extent to which my brain spends time thinking about AirTags. Correct. So I was not paying attention to rumors about new AirTags and could not care less. Is this what people were hoping for, or did people think that they were going to be rechargeable batteries or bigger, or like? I feel like this is exactly what people like. This is the only thing Apple could do to an AirTag without ruining backwards compatibility.
That's correct. Okay. I don't think in any of the rumors there was like it's going to have X, Y, or Z, or it's going to be like a HomePod with a screen. Like there were no rumors about AirTag 2 being something crazy. Right. It was just that they're going to update it.
Nobody thought AirTag 2 was going to be a robot vacuum. Then is what you're saying.
No, it would take a long time to vacuum a house if that was a robot vacuum. I will say there was one other update, which even if you don't get AirTag 2, 26.2.1 came out on Tuesday or maybe Monday, but it brings Precision Find My to Apple Watch Ultra 2 and Apple Watch Series 9 and later. I forget where it is here in the newsroom. So you can actually get the little arrow on your watch screen now, even if you have an older Apple Watch. And I believe it works with either AirTag, the original or the new one. But it will just use the ultra wideband chip now on those devices. So that was a nice upgrade, and that was just software. And that's supposedly, great. I will say, I complained about the auto brightness toggle disappearing from my iPhone. I posted that on social media a couple weeks ago. It came back. 26.2.1. It brought it back, so I now have my auto brightness toggle back. And suppose someone posted, I should have saved this link, that there are a bunch of under-the-hood improvements in 26.2.1 in things like video and photo processing, like a lot of behind-the-scenes bug fixes and improvements. So make sure you update your devices. Big upgrade. Also, you wrote an article, and I just wanted to say you used my image. You featured my image. So look at that.
I even asked for permission. Well, here's the thing. Sometimes you write an article about something, and we typically use Getty, the stock image. Not typically. If I don't take the photo myself, we use Getty. But there was no good Getty image for Apple's rumored AI pin.
Right.
And because the most recent Apple-related AI news was the Gemini thing, the Google Gemini thing. All of the stock images, if you're looking for like Apple and AI, are like what is clearly not an iPhone, but is pretending to be an iPhone with an Apple logo on it with like Gemini in the background. You know,
terrible stock imagery.
It's like all the there is literally just a content farm. I think most of them are in like Ukraine. And they just, when news comes out, set up random shots of this kind of thing. And I was like, no, Steven posted actually the perfect photo for this. So I said, Steven, can I use your photo? And he said, absolutely. And I said, great. And I think I even gave you credit. Yes, I did. So there you go.
Oh, look at that. Credit Steven. Look at that. I'm on, this is what got me verified on Twitter back in the day, was you mentioning me in the Inc. articles. So
yeah, and think now all you need is like $9.
That's it. That's it. All right. So that was cool. Also, before we get to Creator Studio, which I think had a bit of a mixed rollout, and we'll get into some of the specifics, but this was, I think, some exciting news. Sebastiaan de With, who was on the Lux camera team, the makers of Halide, apps like Orion, he announced on social media yesterday that he's joining the design team at Apple. And I think this is great news. One, he used to be at Apple. If you're not familiar with the lore, Sebastiaan de With was back at Apple in the Mobile Me era and worked on the design team then. He then worked at Lux.Camera with Ben Sandowski and making things like the Halide camera app, which is, I think, widely regarded as a great camera app, also great design-wise. I think it's won Apple Design Awards. And now he's going back to Apple to join the design team specifically. I think this is good news. I think this is a sunny outlook at the future of design at Apple with people like Sebastiaan de With coming back to help him out.
Yeah, I would trade an Alan Dye for Sebastiaan de With.
100%. I never thought of that trade. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, let's be clear. As far as we know, he's not taking that spot.
No.
Stephen LeMay has that role. But I'm just saying, if you lose a Alan Dye and gain a Sebastiaan de With, I feel like that's a good month.
And specifically, he doesn't say in his post. He just says he's joining the design team at Apple. But Sebastiaan de With, in his prior history at Apple and what he was doing with the Halide app, I think was specifically doing software design, not hardware design. He's not worked at hardware the last few years. And so I think that's a good sign. Software design by someone who knows good design. So, yeah. Speaking of design, I now have a bunch of new icons in my dock on my Mac, thanks to Creator Studio. Now, we talked about Creator Studio when it was announced, and on last week's show, we couldn't really talk about it more because it was under embargo. But now the embargo lifted yesterday, Wednesday, and so I made a video talking all about Creator Studio, and I put it through its paces. I tested everything. I've edited videos in Final Cut, the new version. Yeah, I made a keynote presentation because I was actually speaking at Podfest a couple weeks ago. I did all the things, and then it actually came out, and people were trying to upgrade and things like that, and it was a bit of a mixed bag, I think. One, people didn't understand how to get it. Well, people were like, where do I go to get Creator Studio? I do think it would have been helpful if it was rolled out or available in something different besides the App Store, because now in the App Store, if you can go to the App Store right now, and there are doubles of all these apps. So like Final Cut Pro and Pages. You can download the old Pages and the new Pages. And they're both there because, which we can get into some of the specifics, but if you don't subscribe to Creator Studio, you get the old Pages. There's no like upgrading that. And so let me show you. I guess not all of them. Maybe the Pages one is a bad example, but like I'm going to share my App Store window here if you're watching. So for things like Pixelmator, which is one of the biggest ones, which we'll get to, there's still like the old one. And then there's the new one, which is subscription only. No one-time purchase for the Pixelmator Mac app, which was a misunderstanding I had. Things like, Logic Pro. You have the old version in the App Store, and then you have the new version, but that's the subscription only. Same thing for Final Cut Pro. So there was some confusion there. Basically, if you wanted to sign up for Creator Studio, you needed to download one of the new apps in the App Store. And yesterday, during the rollout, you saw both of them, I feel like, closer side by side if you searched for Pages or whatever. Now it seems like maybe they're distinguishing them a little more or hiding kind of the older ones. But you had to download one of the new ones and then subscribe. So that was a little weird. A lot of people started then kind of complaining like, well, if I don't want to upgrade to Creator Studio, it feels like I'm getting a lot of upsells. And there are a lot of pop-ups when you first open even the old apps that are like, hey, you should download the new version and you should subscribe. And if you start a new document, in the template section, there's now like a premium templates that are only available for subscription, and there's an upsell there. And so this is Stephen Troughton-Smith. He was posting all day on Mastodon yesterday, just different screenshots. But like you would see pop-ups like this if you open the old version of Numbers. And then you would see if you go to like the document picker, there's upsells. If you go to this was interesting. I saw a Basic Apple guy post this first, but this is an image from Stephen Troughton-Smith. If you take an image from like the Content Hub, which is now Apple's royalty-free image library, if you take one of those images and put it in an old version of a Keynote or Pages document, or a version that is not subscribed to Creator Studio, they put a watermark. They put a Creator Studio watermark on the royalty-free image, which I understand they want you to subscribe, but like that feels kind of, I don't know. So people were having mixed experiences with Creator Studio as it was rolling out yesterday. And I was on the fence because I made my video. I had test flight access to all the apps, and so, I was using them. We can talk about some of the specific features in a second, but I got to the point where I was like, I'm not going to use the transcript search in Final Cut very much because I don't edit podcasts in Final Cut. Compressor, there's really nothing new. I have Pixelmator already. I don't use Logic Pro. I don't use these apps on my iPad. After I made my video, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to just go back to the apps I had and I'll be good. I have the one-time Mac purchase apps and that's all I need. So I removed all the test flight apps from my Mac. And then I went to update my apps. So I updated my old version of Final Cut, which gets the transcript search anyway. So I got that feature. I upgraded Compressor. And then I went to upgrade Pixelmator. And lo and behold, Pixelmator, even if you purchased the Mac app as a one-time purchase before, did not get updated yesterday. So Pixelmator is and technically Photomator, but Apple did not put Photomator in the Creator Studio bundle. Pixelmator is the seemingly one Mac app, aside from Mainstage, Compressor, Motion, Final Cut, Logic, that did not get updated yesterday. And it is the one app that if you want the Liquid Glass redesign, and if you want the Warp tool, which is like the one big new feature in Pixelmator on Mac, if you want those, it requires a subscription. There is no upgrade for one-time Pixelmator purchasers from the Creator Studio yesterday. And so you had sent me a screenshot, and apparently that was in the footnote of some page of Creator Studio.
No, it's right in the body of the press release.
It's in the body of the press release?
Yeah.
Which it was a long press release. I really thought I read all that. I don't know how much we could say. I thought I asked several times, like, so if you own the one-time purchase Mac apps, do you get all the features? And that is true, except for Pixelmator.
Well, it's true for the Apple, what they consider the Apple professional apps, which are Final Cut, Logic, Motion, and Compressor.
Which you wouldn't have had one-time purchases for Pages, Numbers, and Keynote anyway. So I feel like that question is only applying to Final Cut, Logic, Mainstage, Compressor, Motion, and I thought Pixelmator.
Right. But it does make sense because I think they've done a lot of work. So, like, for example, the old version of Pixelmator Pro works on non-Apple Silicon Macs. So so they would have had to cut those off if they would have added some of these features because they require the neural engine and stuff. So I'm guessing that what they're doing is like, well, okay, let me back up. This is super messy.
Yes.
Because Apple is trying to not make everyone mad who has paid $300 for Final Cut and say, now you have to subscribe to keep using Final Cut. And you have to rationalize why there's a bundle that you can pay $13 a month for to get all of these things. The part where there's two versions of the apps in the Mac App Store is mind-bogglingly insane. Yeah. Also, if you notice, all of the, quote, Creator Studio versions have to have like a subtitle because you cannot have two apps that have the same name in the Mac App Store. So it's like Logic Pro, make music. Pixelmator Pro, edit images. Like that's the literal name of the app in the App Store so that you can distinguish between the two. So like you can tell just by that alone, Apple is having a hard time trying to figure out like there's a very clunky way that they're having to do this to make this kind of work. And you're right. I looked after they had been released, and I didn't see any of these things in the Mac App Store. Any of the new icons were nowhere to be found for hours after these products were technically released. If I searched for Final Cut, all I got was the previous version and a thing that says update. Now, the update was there because they did update that version yesterday.
Right.
You got those new features. It seems like what they should have done, hear me out, make all of these apps now, Final Cut, Logic, whatever, free to download. And then once you download them, Final Cut doesn't really do anything except for open old projects or something. I don't know, like how you would, until you choose, do you want to one-time purchase this or do you want to subscribe to Creator Studio? And I think that would have actually made it a lot easier for people to sort of digest this sort of thing, because essentially that's what's going to happen with Pages, right? You download Pages and you're like, sweet, I can just use Pages. And then it'll be like, do you want the magic stuff, like whatever it is, and you're like, do you want Pages Supreme, Premium, whatever they call it, right? Like you can choose to subscribe to it or you just keep using it.
They got Sebastiaan on the design team. They need you on the branding team. Pages Supreme.
Pages.
It would have been great timing with Marty Supreme, Pages Supreme. That would have been it.
Keynote Pro Max. I mean, listen, the stuff is just right there.
That would have been better.
I'm just saying that, like, I can understand why this is messy, and Apple does do this thing where they will, when you ask a question to clarify something, they will answer it with the fewest words possible as to not give you any extra context. And you're like, just talk to me like a person.
I
like,
know.
What's going to, because for example, I had this question, like, so you seem to be very careful about saying that at launch, there will be feature parity with Final Cut and Logic. If you say that, it makes it sound like at some point there will not be feature parity between these, and they will not tell you, but they will also not tell you that at some point in the future, if you want new features in Final Cut, you're going to have to pay for Creator Studio. I don't know how far that is. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a year or 2 or 5 from now, but 100% it's going to be the case. And at that point, if you bought Final Cut 10 years ago, I think it'd be like, okay, I get it. I've amortized the cost of this $300, paying $13 a month for this thing. And you also then get the iPad version. Like there are benefits, because some of these apps, like Logic and Final Cut, were separate purchases on the iPad.
Well, and so that's a point that I wanted to get to, which is, one, if you individually subscribed to Final Cut or Logic on iPad before, you have to go manually cancel those subscriptions if you sign up for Creator Studio. Like, you will, if you don't cancel them, end up paying $13 a month for Creator Studio and then $5 for Final Cut and $5 for Logic Pro, which, again, when you put it in context, like, oh, wait, Final Cut and Logic were $10 a month total as a monthly subscription. Creator Studio sounds like a better deal, sure. But you just have to make sure to cancel them. And I had to discover that those subscriptions to those iPad apps were started by my kids' accounts, which if you have an iCloud family, there's like a separate section for subscriptions that are being shared with you by other family members that started them. And so I had to be like, hey, Asher, can you cancel your Final Cut subscription? Jordan, cancel your Logic one, because now we have Creator Studio. So that's messy. I feel like Apple could have figured out, if you sign up for Creator Studio, that those other subscriptions just go away. But it's a little bit of an iTunes Match situation, which I still pay for, and I know I don't need to. But anyway, there's that.
It's very much like the fact that I get Apple Music through Verizon, through my Verizon plan, and I also get it through the Apple One plan. But there's no way in the world I can cancel either of those, because I'm just afraid of what will happen if I try to cancel a subscription and suddenly Apple Music is like, go away. I don't know who you are.
Right. So there's that. But even further, those individual app subscriptions are now removed. And so Tim Chatton on Mastodon said he was subscribed to one of them on iPad, and that's not an option anymore. So if you just wanted to pay $5 a month or $60 a year for Final Cut on iPad specifically, that's not an option. You have to go to the Creator Studio now for Logic and Final Cut on iPad specifically. So again, like, it would have been a lot to communicate, I guess, but it feels like the rollout as a whole is confusing. And especially for people that were just subscribed to one app, or people who are trying to figure out the one-time purchases on Mac, like, it's not great, I feel like. And I don't know how it could have been done better, but it's
also
confusing. If
you paid for Final Cut and you paid $300 for it, in 2.5 years, you will pay that again. Like, Creator Studio actually, so The challenge is Creator Studio it looks super affordable it's the price of Apple TV. It's literally the same price as a subscription to their streaming service.
Sure.
So compared to like Adobe Creative Cloud, which is $70 a month, it feels like a very, very good deal. The thing is, it's a terrible deal on one hand if you already bought, like I have Logic and Final Cut and I've had them both for a very long time. Why would I pay $13 a month for something I paid $600 for or whatever, $500 for? It's like I would pay that again in the next 4 or 5 years, or I could just keep using it. And if 5 years they stop working or whatever, then fine, I'll switch over to the subscription. But it is unless you need the full bundle, I'm not sure that anybody who owns these apps should switch. Now, the thing about the fact that you can't do the individual subscriptions on the iPad, I get that, right? At some point, though, again, Apple had to make this make sense and rationalize it, and you cannot have one-time purchases for this, and then for the companion app on the iPad. That's basically what Things does, which drives me crazy, is you have to buy them all separately.
Yeah, but you could have just had the individual app. Like Adobe does this for all their apps. Like if you just want to pay for Lightroom, you can do that at a cheaper price. And they could have lowered it to say, all right, well, only Final Cut on iPad is $3 a month or whatever. But there's no option for that on iPad anymore specifically, or on Mac for that matter. Like if you just wanted to subscribe to Pixelmator, like the Photoshop plan on Mac, there's no plan for that. And again, maybe it's cheap enough where most people don't care, but like Adobe, I'm gonna share their pricing screen because it's actually insane. You can get Acrobat Studio for $25 a month. You can get Premiere for a certain amount. You can get, and there's different combos. You can get Lightroom and Photoshop for $20 a month. You can look at all these options. Now, I'm not saying Apple should have done this because this is insane.
Apple would never do that.
You can get Dreamweaver, and someone said on social media, wait, Dreamweaver still exists? Yes, yep. Dreamweaver still exists. You can get it for $23 a month. So they, offer some individuals. And so the one thing that I came to was I had decided not to subscribe because I have the one-time purchase Mac apps. I don't use them on my iPad very much. I couldn't open my thumbnail files in Pixelmator Pro on iPad for whatever reason. Every time I try to open a thumbnail file that I've edited on my Mac, Pixelmator Pro on my iPad, the new version is like, sorry, this file is too large. Do you want to resize it? It's like, well, then that doesn't make it, it's not useful to me because I want a specific resolution. So I was like, I'm not going to use Pixelmator Pro on iPad. I'll just stick with it. And then I discovered that my one-time purchase of Pixelmator on Mac did not get the redesign nor the warp tool. And I was like, well, I was paying for Final Cut and Logic iPad subscriptions anyway because my kids use those. That was $10 a month. Whatever. I'll just pay for Creative Studio. So I subscribed to Creator Studio. You get 3 months free if you have like an M4 Mac, I think. So I got 3 months for free anyway. Or maybe, I don't know, if you have a new Mac, I don't know. Maybe everybody gets 3 months for free. Who knows? Again, confusing rollout. So I subscribed. I'm using the new version of Final Cut and Compressor and Pixelmator on my Mac. Maybe I'll use them on my iPad. I don't know, but I subscribed. I assume you did not subscribe.
I did not subscribe. I'm going to rock the test flight for as long until it expires. Sure. It's fine. I mean, but really when I say that, I'm actually not. I'm just going to leave them installed, but the features are the same between the apps that I actually use. I don't care. I mean, I did do the whole thing where you can like tell it what you want a presentation and it'll just make it for you. And it was fine. Like it was whatever. It was fine. But let me talk. Can we talk for just a second about like who Apple thinks this is for? Yeah, because everyone keeps saying like, oh, they're competing with Creative Cloud. I'm like, no.
Clearly not.
This is definitely not a competitor to Creative Cloud. For a couple of reasons, it's obvious. One, there's no Lightroom competitor, but that's not the most glaring one. There's no Illustrator. There's no, none of those types of things. And really, Motion is a different class of product than After Effects. Right? Yes. Motion is like, I need a title card or I need to animate a thing. It is not, I need to import a Illustrator file with 1,400 layers and animate each one of them, which is what After Effects is. Right?
There's also no InDesign, which is like a legitimate page.
People kept trying to tell me Pages. No, it's not. Like, if you think Pages is a competitor to InDesign, we should talk. We shouldn't. And just like a hair of context, I used to work at a travel company where I worked in the brochure department, and Creative Cloud was like, this person would design the brochure in InDesign, but Adobe's like copy and proofing app, which is like a different app, was used by the copywriter in another room. And they could be working on the same brochure that this designer is working on in InDesign. They're editing the copy. And like that is the kind of coherence across the Adobe suite of apps that like you don't see in Apple's apps. And honestly, like collaboration is not
really a thing. Like you can collaborate on pages, documents, and Keynote and numbers, but it is not like a core feature where the Creative Suite is like, that is a core part of it.
But yeah, the way that the Adobe Creative Suite is meant to work is a designer creates a graphic in Photoshop or Illustrator, hands it over to a motion graphics artist who does something with it in After Effects, who sends it to the video editor in Premiere, who then mixes it down in Audition, right? Sends it off to the audio engineer in Audition. And like it is meant for that kind of a workflow, and it is meant for professionals. And I even asked Apple about this. I was like, so who is this for? Because it seems like it's not geared towards professionals. And I don't think Apple would ever say that they don't think that independent creators or independent musicians or whatever are not, quote, professional. But there is a distinction there. Like they are leaning all the way into the fact that this is for the full stack creative. This is for the YouTube person who needs to make thumbnails with like Pixelmator. This is for like the person making a demo reel or doing their own music, and they want to be able to do that kind of thing. But they also want to be able to like create a flyer and to promote their concerts, that kind of thing. And when you think of it that way, they do have all the tools that someone in that situation would need. But this is definitely not going to replace professional workflows for it. It's not. And the weird thing about that is that like Apple has spent a long time positioning Logic and Final Cut as pro tier applications.
It's in the name.
Because Final Cut was. And then they did the Final Cut 10 thing and all the pros left and just went to Premiere and went back to Avid. And now like probably Logic is the one that has the largest market share in that class, but like still Studio One and like Pro Tools are the default, right? Yeah. It's like I heard someone say Logic is the one the musicians use to record their stuff, and then they get mixed down in Pro Tools.
I've seen a lot of TikToks and reels about like music production, and I never see Logic in like shown there. Although I will say I did watch my next guest, the David Letterman show on Netflix. It needs no introduction, and the Billie Eilish episode, and her brother Phineas, that's his name. He uses Logic, so like
that's what they're saying. The artists do, but but the reason is because every recording studio has an Avid deck, so they're just using Pro Tools, like
and they have like the USB like key that you have to unlock everything. But anyway, so a couple of things just about Creator Studio apps specifically. I won't rehash my whole video. One, people were upset that the new icons are locked to the subscription, so you don't get the new icons when you update Final Cut Pro, basically, even though you get the new transcription feature. So I thought that was kind of funny. Keynote, I think, had the most interesting features. In my video, I show it creating a Keynote presentation from a text outline. So you can literally give it a text outline and it will generate a bunch of slides based on the points. It does an okay job. Like it's not something you could just like use, but it helps you not start from scratch. So it'll create a bunch of slides for you. It'll put some points on there. It doesn't make it super compelling, but then you can use the new image generation features or the Create Content Hub to pull royalty-free images. Those do pretty good. And I did in Keynote try to like generate visualizations based on text, and that does pretty good too. So like I gave it like percentages and tell it like make a pie graph out of this, and it did pretty good. And it's using ChatGPT. It is not using Apple Intelligence Image Playgrounds. It tells you in the fine print this is ChatGPT OpenAI, but it does okay at that. I don't make enough presentations for that to be compelling probably, but that's a feature in Keynote. And then the one other thing in Final Cut. So the new feature is transcription search. And I talk about this in my video, but now you can see every time you import video footage into Final Cut, there is a transcribe like checkbox. And then you can even see like in the processing, it's transcribing every video file. Like you see it in the analyzing and the transcoding, like background tasks. And then it's transcript. There's a transcript for every video clip you pull into Final Cut now, if you choose to do that. You can search via transcript, and you'll see a bunch of search results. Like if you search for a word or phrase, you see a bunch of search results here in like the browser, and they're all like 10 to 20 second clips, and it includes the context that you said, which is great. This would be way more useful if you could just see the transcript. There is no way in Final Cut, even though all the transcripts are there, like it's in Final Cut somewhere in the background, there is no window or pane you can open to just look at the transcript of any of these clips or your project as a whole. And so if you wanted to actually find that moment, and let's say I said Netflix 10 times last episode, when I search for Netflix in Final Cut, I now have 10 search results. And if I want to find a specific clip, I have to literally play each one and hear the context. Or I can try to search for more, like Netflix, blah, try to do give it more words to search for. But this would be way more useful if, like, when I hover my mouse over each clip, or if I could have a pane open, that it just shows me the text of the thing. And I basically show, like, in Riverside, which is what I still use to edit this podcast, the video version, like, just seeing the full transcript and being able to search that transcript and jump to the different search results is way more useful and way faster. So I'm glad this is a feature in Final Cut, but they definitely need to, like, let me just see it. Let me see the transcript. Let me see the whole transcript for a video clip. Let me scroll through the transcript, and when I click on it, set that as the endpoint in whatever clip I'm trying to add to my timeline. And ideally, since it has all the transcripts, show me the timeline transcript. Show me what I'm saying in the project that I'm editing right now, so I can quickly jump back and forth or maybe search for something there. And if I'm dealing with a long project, like a video podcast, jump to that point in the timeline. So nice that they're now transcribing and you can search. There still needs to be a lot more features to make this robust and useful, I think, for video podcast editors. And it would be useful, I think, for all video editors as a whole. So
yeah, and it does tell you that, like, when you see a product, you know the audience that went into it. And it does seem like they were targeting this towards what they are calling creators. Did you talk to a lot of those creators? I was like, how come you didn't do the transcript thing in Logic? Because, like, there's a lot of people editing podcasts. Like, podcasts are a pretty big thing at this point. Lots of people are using Logic, even though you don't ever really talk about that. But, it would be super helpful if you're editing an audio podcast is if you search the transcript. It would just make a lot of sense. And I feel like the response was like, oh, that's an interesting point. So it's kind of like, just talk to some people because know your audience. Now, I understand, like, the Logic thing is slightly more forgivable because they have decided the audience for it is musicians.
Yeah.
And then the podcast thing is secondary because it's an audio editing app, so podcasts are audio. You could just edit them. But you already did the work. Right? It is getting in Final Cut the transcript. I mean, there's two pieces to this. One of them is a visual search where you can be like, where was the guitar? And it'll find the guitar. That's cool. A separate thing. You don't need that in Logic.
Right.
But the fact that it's transcribing the whole thing and then essentially searching that and marking those clips, like, just do that in Logic. Like, why can't I also have that feature there? I mean, Premiere already does some of these things, so it's like what is already out there. Just make it that easy, and it's like they just didn't consider that was a use case. Maybe they'll make the changes. I don't know, but it's like
maybe. Yeah, and Premiere, to be clear, has had this feature for the last 3 years. I know because I used to do comparisons for Riverside to show Premiere and the Riverside editor, and you could search in Premiere, you could do all that. So anyway, there's that.
And one last thing, isn't Final Cut already doing the text or the audio to captions for you?
You can even before this version of Final Cut say add captions, and it would add the captions on the bottom of the video, but you couldn't style the captions. They weren't animated, and it was really just for subtitles. Like if you want to export the subtitle track, and you could burn them into the video if you really wanted to just have the captions on the final video, but it was very limited what it could do. But yeah, it did do that too. The last thing I'll say, if you go open the Content Hub, there's also illustration type stuff. It is useful to have a bunch of royalty-free images at the ready when you're building a keynote or if you're in Pages and you want to just pull images. And I got a little bit, not in a bad way, but nostalgic for clip art back in the day. You remember clip art? That was its own app.
Nostalgia is not the word I would use, but okay, carry on.
I'm just saying, clip art, like these little microphones with the illustration. It's like old school clip art.
Yeah, are you like a Microsoft publisher, whatever that was?
Yeah,
just drop some clip art in it.
Dazzle Video Editor. If anybody remembers Dazzle Video Editor, hit me up. That's a deep cut. Anyway, that was Creator Studio. I'll put a link to Jason's article and my video in the show notes if you want to learn more about that. But we actually have a ton of other news we need to get to. Man. Before we do, take a quick break and we'll be right back. This episode is brought to you by Framer. Now, I've actually built hundreds of websites over the years. I actually used to do it for a living. And a website should help your business grow, not slow it down. And if updates to that website feel harder than they should, Framer is the shortcut you've been looking for. Framer is a website builder that turns .coms from a formality into a tool for growth, helping thousands of businesses from early-stage startups to Fortune 500s build better websites faster. Listen, there are lots of tools out there for building a website. I know I've used lots of them, and if you've never tried Framer, today is the day. Look at our landing page. It even has primary technology on it. It's pretty cool. But Framer is a website builder that works like your team's favorite design tool, with real-time collaboration, a robust CMS, with everything you need for great SEO, and advanced analytics, including integrated A/B testing. I do A/B testing all the time on YouTube, and you can do it on your website today. Changes to your Framer site go live to the web in seconds with one click, and Framer is an enterprise solution too, with premium hosting, enterprise-grade security, and 99.99% uptime SLAs that gives the world's leading brands like Perplexity, Miro, and Mixpanel the confidence they need to build their websites in Framer. So whether you want to launch a new site, test a few landing pages, or migrate your full .com, Framer has programs for startups, scale-ups, and large enterprises to make going from idea to live site as easy and fast as possible. So learn how you can get more out of your .com from a Framer specialist, or get started building for free today at framer.com/primary for 30% off a Framer Pro annual plan. That's framer.com/primary for 30% off. The link is in the show notes. You can click it there. Framer.com/primary. Rules and restrictions apply. Our thanks to Framer for sponsoring this episode and our friends at Copilot Money. We're still early in the year, and it is not too late to get a hold of your finances, and Copilot Money is the app and website to do it. They actually have incredible looking apps across all your Apple devices, iPhone, iPad, of course the Mac and the web. And their app isn't just the clearest way to track all the transactions, accounts, and balances. It's fully customizable to make sure you can always see what you want to help you make the best financial decisions. I know for myself, when I'm using a tool like this, I need it to look good but also work really well, and Copilot Money does both. Here's what it looks like on the web, the Mac, and iPhone. If you're watching here on YouTube, incredible apps on all those platforms. And Copilot Money offers a clean, intuitive, privacy-first approach to managing finances. And with their new web app launch, it's now available everywhere for everyone. You can see all your accounts in one place, so connect your banks, your credit cards, your investment accounts. It has AI-powered spending categorization, so you don't have to spend all that time granularly changing every transaction. Let Copilot Money do it for you. Plus, you see all your subscriptions and upcoming recurring bills in one place, so you can stay ahead of those renewals, cancel the ones you don't need anymore. And of course, you could set and track savings goals with clarity. It's an easy, fast, and streamlined setup, privacy first, and of course, those native apps. It also won Apple Store Awards Editor's Choice and Apple Design Awards. It was a 2024 finalist. So here's what you do. You can get 2 months free with promo code PRIMARY. Go to try.copilot.money/primary. The link is down in the show notes, and get 2 months free with that code PRIMARY. Start the new year with clarity, and this is your money beautifully organized now across every device. Try.copilot.money/primary, and that link is below. Our thanks to Copilot Money for sponsoring this episode. I don't even know what to cover first, Jason. Let's just do this. Tesla decided to stop making cars, apparently.
Hold on.
No.
Also, I forgot to give you my article. I did write about that this morning.
Did you? Okay,
yeah,
right, I'll find it while you talk.
Okay, the point was, okay, this is not a surprise, but it kind of is like a bittersweet thing. Maybe just bitter. I don't know. But like, they're going to stop making Model S and Model X. For comparison, or for context, I don't know, Tesla sells somewhere in the neighborhood of like 1 million cars a year, and I don't know, something like 40,000 of them are Model S and Model X. Not a huge market for them at this point, especially because internationally the only thing anyone wants is the inexpensive vehicles, right? And they're getting just spanked by BYD, which is selling like the equivalent of like $15,000 cars. And so Tesla doesn't have an answer for that. They're not going to stop making Model S's to make more Model 3s. Okay, they're going to stop making Model S's so that in Fremont they can start making autonomous robots, which no, they're not. But anyway, that's what they said they're going to do. But the reason that they're going to do that is because Elon getting his $1 trillion pay package depends on autonomous robots doing all the labor for the entire world, because then you can sell like 1 billion of them and the companies, whatever. So it's a little bit sad. You drive a Model S, right? Still, maybe. I have a Model S. I've been driving one for a long time. Mine is not as old as Steven's. Steven has an almost OG Model S.
2013 Model S.
It came out in 2012. Steven has one of the bubble nose ones. I have one of the slightly less bubble nose ones. But anyway, it's a great car. I love the Model S. Despite all of the baggage that someone might give, equate with a Tesla, it's fantastic. It's not great when it's 22 below because it's not very efficient in this cold, but whatever, it's fine. We just don't drive far in the winter for other reasons too. Like the roads are bad. Anyway, but I do think it's on the one hand, it makes sense. It is kind of sad. Even Elon said, like, I know this is kind of sad, but it's time that they're going to stop making them. But I think that today, given all of the context that we have about electric vehicles, about Tesla as a company, about Elon Musk, it would be very easy to miss how just mind-bogglingly revolutionary the Model S was. Mm-hmm. There would be no electric vehicle industry. Like Porsche, Mercedes, none of them would be making cars if it wasn't for the Model S. Not cars, electric cars.
Electric cars.
There'd be no Lucid. There'd be no Rivian. Like all of these things, they just not only defined the market for electric vehicles, they like almost created it. Because before that, you had the Chevy Volt and the
Bolt and the Volt.
One of them was a hybrid. One of them was
Nissan
full
Leaf
electric. And the Leaf. Those are the ones that existed. Essentially, they were terrible. Yeah. The Model S comes along, and it's basically a Mercedes S-Class electric vehicle. I mean, like some of the parts were literally from the Mercedes S-Class. The steering wheel was from yours probably you probably have a Mercedes steering wheel in that thing. So they were like, we're going to make a luxury car that is amazing to drive, and it's full electric, and it gets 285 miles at the time of range. It goes 0 to 60 in like under 4 seconds. Like it was faster than a Porsche. It was like insane, right? And I think it's easy to overlook that. So it is a little bit sad to think like that car has finally reached the end of its life, especially when the reason is so that they can make robots, ?
And it's also, and to be clear, it's the Model S and X.
Model X, yes.
The butterfly.
There's not as much nostalgia for the Model X. It's an interesting vehicle with the X-Wing doors and stuff like that, but like it's not there's just not the same thing.
I'll put a link to my video because I did make a video when I got this. This was 2 Septembers ago, so September 2024, I got this car. It was an 11-year-old Tesla at the time. And it still has the big vertical screen in the middle, but it was in good condition. And, I enjoyed it. But when I got the car, I did look up like the reviews of this car from when it came out from like 10 years prior. And all the reviews were very positive.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, this is amazing that this is an electric car and it is this good. So, yeah. End of an era there to make robots, I guess. Anyway. So
I just want to be on record that they won't be making robots.
You don't think so?
No. Like,
yeah.
Steven.
What are those factories going to be doing? Because they're actual factories that exist already.
Hold on, Steven. I'm sorry. Yeah. I just want to say this. They've shown off this robot.
Yeah.
Every time they've shown off this robot, it's just basically a person controlling a robot.
Yes.
They're so far away from making autonomous robots. You were at CES. The one robot walking around punched itself in the face and passed out.
The best robot was the one that played ping pong, but it didn't have to move. I mean, it moved its arms, but it didn't it just stayed stationary.
I mean, the most technologically advanced robot we saw at CES was that leaf blower that tried to attack us.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, we almost died. Anyway, end of an era. Okay, lightning-ish. Well, we'll see. Lightning-ish round. But I wanted to mention this. Apple TV got rights. They signed a deal with Brandon Sanderson for the Cosmere universe of movies and TV shows. I just know that this is a huge book series and is like, we watched the extended edition of Lord of the Rings in theaters, The Two Towers, last weekend because it was like re-airing. Peter Jackson did like a little intro or whatever. And I looked up like Brandon Sanderson versus Tolkien. I don't know why. I was just curious, like fantasy writers, how do these compare? And they were like, both highly regarded. Brandon Sanderson, extremely prolific. Like this dude just writes and writes, doesn't stop. And so this is an entire universe of stuff. And Apple now has the rights to make movies and TV shows with his property, intellectual property. Mistborn is the series, the Stormlight Archive. And so I'm excited for that. More fantasy stuff on Apple TV.
We didn't have this in the... Sorry, I just want to say, we didn't have this in our rundown.
Yeah.
Shrinking's back.
Shrinking's coming back.
Last night.
Oh, it was back. It's back.
It's back. You got to watch it. Can I say that... okay, every time I think about sitting down to watch Shrinking, I'm like, eh. And then I watch it, I'm like, this is one of the best shows ever made.
It's the best.
And then you're like, This show has Jason Segel, Harrison friggin' Ford.
Harrison Ford, yeah.
I cannot think of what his love interest is, but she played on like Chicago Hope and a bunch of other things. But like, and it's not a spoiler because it was in the teaser. But season 3 brings Michael J. Fox. Like
crazy.
You're gonna get emotional when you watch episode 1 of season 3.
I get emotional when I watch Octonauts. I mean, it's whatever. Like that's.
You shouldn't say that out loud. But it is, and Brett Goldstein, who like, I mean, it's amazing. I'm sorry. And other Apple TV news. Apple TV actually said that Ted Lasso is coming back this summer.
Yes, season 4. Season 4. That's good. All right, going on. Google has finally released some agentic features in Chrome. Gemini's there. There's a side panel where you can ask Gemini to do things. It can take action for you on certain websites. Of course, all the typical use cases is like, yeah, it'll help book your travel and
it'll buy you something.
It'll buy you something. It'll shop for stuff. We're gonna get into this in a little bit, but I stopped paying. I stopped paying for Perplexity, finally, and then I realized the stupid Comet browser. The one thing I do in the Comet browser, which is refresh the Apple Podcasts Connect page so it will publish our daily show without me having to look, requires a subscription. So I was like, so I stopped paying for Perplexity. I lost access to that, and then I was like, okay, well, let me see if ChatGPT Atlas can do it. And so I tried to do the same task in ChatGPT Atlas, which is their AI browser. And my prompt was refresh this page for every minute for 30 minutes until the publish button turns purple and then click it. And ChatGPT is like, oh, well, we can't watch this page for 30 minutes. That's literally what it told me. They're like, oh, sorry, we can't do it for that long. I was
that
like,
sounds real hard, Steven.
I was like, how about 20 minutes? They're like, still too much. Still can't do it. I was like, 10 minutes? And they're like, yeah, all right, we could do that. so the
you had to negotiate with ChatGPT.
I literally had to try the prompt. So it will do it for 10 minutes. And guess what? That's just not enough time for that stupid publish button to turn purple. So I can't use my agentic browser unless I pay for Perplexity anyway. I'm not going to download Google Chrome and try this here. What were we going to say? You
shouldn't be surprised. You're still waiting on the burger you ordered from the
my rabbit
things
are
not that good. It's good. Can you just imagine one of these days you're going to like ask ChatGPT, order me a burger? It's like, well, a burger's a lot of work, man. Are you
pretty
sure
heavy.
You don't just want some chicken nuggets?
Yeah, we get you lettuce wrapped, but with a bun? Nope, can't do it.
Sorry, bro.
Can't do it. I should try to fire up my Rabbit R1 and order something again. Anyway.
No, you should not.
I think you and I share this aversion, but like you don't run Chrome.
Yeah, my life philosophy is that friends don't let friends use Chrome.
Now, I also don't like installing Chrome and doing things. You know, there were a lot of things years ago about like security and passwords, and it's like, yeah, nah. And so I never installed it on this new Mac Studio that I set up before. I literally have Safari, Brave, Edge, Atlas, and Comet all on here, but I don't have Chrome. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to try it. I'm not going to download Chrome just to try this. So
no, I'm not going to download Chrome and start giving it my personal information, right? Like that's literally the only reason it exists in the universe is for that reason. And it kind of boggles my mind. I get why people have to use Chromium. I have to use Chromium for certain things. So I use Brave for that purpose.
That's why we use Brave to record the show.
Yes. Well, I mean, there are other things beside that, but yes, Yeah. But I don't understand. Like I hear computery people talk about using Chrome, and I'm like, I don't understand. Why would you do that? Why would anyone use Chrome? I get there are other I would use Edge before I use Chrome.
Man, that's tough.
100% I would use Edge before I use Chrome.
I would use an Abacus before I use Edge. But anyway, we should start another browser. Lizzie, leave us a 5-star rating and review. If you absolutely love Chrome, you have a Chrome shirt, you have a Chrome hat, so let us know. But
only but you can't be using a Chromebook, okay? I just want to be clear. Like my children only use Chrome, but they don't have a choice.
The Chromebook is Chrome. Yeah, that's
the whole thing. That's all you got. You just got Chrome.
It's right in the name. It's right in the name. So anyway, I'm not going to try it, but agentic stuff. I don't know if Safari will ever get it, but anyway, other AI stuff. Have you ever been hearing about Clawdbot, now rebranded as Moltbot?
Okay. First of all, there's two things here. There's Clawdbot, and then there's the fact they had to change their name, which is not surprising at all that they had to change their name. This everywhere I kept seeing this on like Threads and Bluesky, whatever. I kept reading it, and every time I read it, I just felt like it was
A typo?
Like not real. And also I thought like this feels like the stuff that people put on LinkedIn for engagement. Like, let me tell you the story of how whatever. Like that's what and I'm like, this feels like the weirdest tech bro whatever thing I've ever heard of. And then I finally started to see people like, no, actually this is amazing.
Right.
And then you realize what you have to do to use it. I'm like, nope, sorry, I just can't. My brain doesn't work well enough to do that. Like, Vitici is sending messages to Clawdbot via Telegram, and it's just doing stuff for him. And I'm like,
just that sentence alone should give you an idea of what it would take.
I don't even get it. Like, I don't have that much tenacity to make this happen. To send text messages via Telegram to Clawdbot to whatever is happening. But I think it's cool that someone figured it out.
So. Now, a couple things. One, you mentioned LinkedIn. One of my favorite reels I saw recently was a guy was like, if I ever get put in charge of LinkedIn, my first act is just shut it down. just shut it down. It's like, yes, thank you. That's one. Two, Clawdbot is spelled Clawd, which actually doesn't matter now because it's not called that. It's called Moltbot. But I've had multiple people reach out to me who I know personally, and they were like, yo, have you checked out Clawdbot? Like, it sounded like the most back deal, drug deal ever. And I was like,
right.
Yeah, I know. Like, I just got to Claude Code like last week. Like, I just understood what to do with that in Terminal. I can't do this. And then I will include Vitici's Mac Stories article in the show notes. He goes through all you have to do. Like, basically, this is using Claude via the API to do agentic stuff on your computer. So there is some security and privacy implications of like, you're letting an AI just kind of like run some of your stuff. So putting this on maybe a Mac or hardware that is not mission critical is something you really need to consider if you even want to try this. And you're going to be spending like a day figuring this out and setting it up, it seems like. But the people who do it, they're saying like, this is really impressive because this shows what AI and agentic use can do. Because it can basically do anything on your computer that you would want. Like, answering emails, it could be organizing things, it could be making things, like whatever. Cool, I guess. I'm not gonna try right now. If you're out there and you've done Clawdbot and you're using it and it's like amazing, let us know what you're using it for. I also heard from another friend who was like, I spent $50 in tokens today because it's using the Claude API. And so if you give it tasks, especially ones that take a long time, it's going to be running through a bunch of tokens as it's taking action. So it can also be rather expensive depending on what you're doing with it.
Yeah, and I feel like this is great, but this is just what Siri should just do. Right? This is like I don't understand how there's any scenario where this is not like that interface and the interactions you have to go through and the hoops you have to jump through and all that kind of stuff is great for the hacker mindset, the people who are willing to tinker. That's great. And some of those people would still want to do that even if the voice assistant on your phone could just do it. But this just shows you like it is possible. It just doesn't seem to work. And it's like I don't think just plugging Gemini in though is necessarily going to get us to Moltbot.
But Moltbot. This is also why I was going to make a video about. I did figure out how to have Claude Code make shortcuts, and shortcuts that like you can just import it in the Shortcuts app and then run. But I was like, the amount of rigmarole I had to figure out and do, like I spent an afternoon working that out. No one is going to do this. And I was like, maybe it would be for a cool video, but I do try to like make videos about things that people will find useful and use on their own. And like, this is not one of them. And also the shortcuts it built often were not good out of the box. Like variables weren't connected or whatever. So I'm like, I already talked about it in the last episode. But
also,
anyway.
Steven,
yeah.
We went to dinner and you made me like 4 shortcuts before the appetizer came. You don't like, this was just for the sake of seeing if it would do that. It is way, way quicker for you to just make the shortcut.
That too. Oh, thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. We should make a short of that. That'll be Jason's short this week.
Because it's praising Steven.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the only short.
Drop a marker real quick.
yeah, there we go. All right, a couple of the news. Sonos finally released some new hardware after a drought of anything. It's a enterprise piece of hardware. It's like the Amp Multi. It's a rack-mounted amp that you would use in like installation. But this was like the first piece of hardware in a couple of years. Remember, there was the CEO change, the whole Sonos app debacle and all that kind of stuff. But Sonos has said they're going to release consumer hardware later this year, 2026. I still love Sonos. I use Sonos all the time. I've not bought anything from them in a long time just because they haven't had anything compelling. So I'm curious what they're going to come out later this year. But Sonos, they're still around. That's the headline.
That's great.
Sonos.
They're still around.
Sonos.
Let me write that down real quick. I should write
that's
about
good.
that
They should
later.
write that down. Also, ChatGPT, we have TikTok too, but ChatGPT ads are coming. They're working out how much to charge for ads. They're thinking $60 per 1,000 views. Ads would be on like the free tier and then the new $8 tier, which ChatGPT started. And we're going to come back to ChatGPT because you had some personal news about it. But,
Did you see the math though on that? $60 per 1,000 views is essentially what you pay for a Super Bowl ad.
That's wild. I don't think companies going to pay.
Because when you look at what you spend versus what the viewership is of the Super Bowl, I'm pretty sure it's $60 per 1,000 views. I saw that math on Threads, and math is hard, but it seemed like that made sense. I wasn't going to try to figure it out, but it's like, oh, that's actually a lot of money.
That would be a lot of money. They could earn a lot of money if they actually have people signing up for this. Yeah, we'll see.
And the problem though is no one knows what these ads should be. And so I think it was on the Vergecast, and I don't know if it was ChatGPT, but no, maybe it was Google. I don't know. The point was like people start seeing ads, and it's like if the ad is a chatbot chatting with the I don't want that. I just no.
I mean, it'll probably be like a little like rich card in the ChatGPT window, being like, "Hey, Delta, something."
But the problem is all of ads are to buy a thing. How many of the things you search ChatGPT are for buying a thing?
I mean, I guess people do it. I mean, that's why they put the emphasis on shopping, where you can like buy directly in ChatGPT.
Because that is a transaction they can monetize. I am saying like, research this for me. What are you going to show me ads about?
Right. I mean,
write me this email. Am I going to get an ad for like SaneBox? Like, I don't understand.
That'd probably be pretty good.
No, it wouldn't, because I wanted it to write me an email. I know. I don't get it.
It's related. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully we don't. Well, we might see ads if we don't pay for ChatGPT anymore. But anyway, before we get to that, TikTok had some news too. TikTok was down earlier this week because of the whole like transition to USDS, because it's now like part owned by a United States entity, combination of Oracle and other things. But TikTok was down, and then there was like a privacy terms and agreement pop-up that was it was verbose and also like, this feels privacy invading. A lot of the terms apparently were already part of the TikTok agreement. You were just actually seeing them again. Is that what you were going to say?
Well, yeah. I love when people are like, this is insane. I would never agree to this. Like, you've been using it for 6 years, dude.
And you already agreed to all
exactly
of
the
this.
same. There's nothing different. It's just it got put in front of you. But the thing that made people mad is it's like you couldn't even get into the app to delete your account without accepting the terms. And so people are like coming up with this, like, put your phone in airplane mode, open the app, then turn off airplane mode and go to your account and delete it, and you won't get the pop-up. And I'm like,
wow,
that is the most user hostile. I mean, you know that Netflix literally just puts a button that says cancel membership, and you can just click it, and if you change your mind, you can just restart your, like, it's insane.
Yeah. Now you put a question in our notes. Am I deleting TikTok? Is that what you were asking me?
I wanted to know, like, I mean, I don't have TikTok.
Yeah, I know you don't have TikTok. Yeah.
I do think it's possible I have a TikTok account, because I think I did like the sign in with Apple thing or whatever like that, because it did get to a point where you couldn't even like scroll through the feed if you weren't like logged in or whatever. But I don't have the app on my phone. I don't use it at all. And I just kept seeing like uninstalls were up 150%. Now, that number actually is not that much. I mean, it's like,
right.
If 10 people download, uninstalled it yesterday, that means 25 people uninstalled it today, right? Like, it is not like 10 people uninstalled it yesterday and 1,000 people uninstalled it today, right? It's like, it's still not a huge difference, but it is a difference. And I also wonder how many people uninstalled it and are just going to reinstall it once they are like, I really need a dopamine fix.
Well, I mean, Reels is right there. It might not be as good as TikTok, but it's still there.
Do you feel that way? Is Reels not as good as TikTok?
Yes.
Really?
The algorithm is not as good, and there is TikTok, there was a competitor called Upscrolled. It went all the way up to like the number 2 app in the App Store on iPhone. I don't know where it is right now, but there were a bunch of articles like, everybody's bailing on TikTok and going to Upscrolled. Let me tell you, I went to that app, not good. It's kind of like that. What was it? The Red Notice or Red Card app when everybody thought it was going to be banned, and it was like, well, everybody's going over here. No one.
You
went
should definitely sign up for an account on Red Notice.
Yeah, right. So Upscrolled is actually the #1 app in the App Store right now. I just checked it, and so it was supposedly a TikTok alternative. It's right up there. It's above ChatGPT and Threads and Gemini as a thing. But so I don't know if you saw like the Dr. Pepper girl.
I don't even know what that is.
There was a woman who was like, this was a TikTok. This is where it's originated. She was like, Dr. Pepper, I have a theme song for you. And then she sings a little jingle, like, Dr. Pepper, baby. And like, it was funny. Dr. Pepper saw it. They were like, we want this. Dr. Pepper literally made a full-on commercial with her jingle produced, and she got paid $2 million. Whatever you think of that situation, that's not happening on Reels. Like those kinds of like crazy interactions between brands and creators, and like when something is trending or viral, you might see it on Reels, and you see it faster now than you used to. The joke used to be like whatever trend is on TikTok will be on Reels next month. It is like a shorter gap for that, and I scroll both, so like I feel that the gap closing. But TikTok still feels like a cultural center, whereas Instagram Reels does not. A lot of times I still see Reels with the TikTok watermark. People just download their TikTok and they'll just
see that. You're right. I do actually watch more TikTok than I thought because I see that.
See? Right. So TikTok, I think, is still the originator of a lot of trends and virality, and the algorithm is different. Now, a lot of people were saying the algorithm got worse suddenly earlier this week with this transition to the USDS. There are a lot of creators saying like TikTok's broken. My video literally has 0 views where I have like 1 million followers. And so something was definitely broken earlier this week, but maybe that's fixed. Maybe it's not, but I still think TikTok is a cultural epicenter that Instagram Reels, it has not achieved that level yet. Will I delete TikTok? Here's the one reason I have TikTok, Jason, because I honestly don't scroll it as much as I used to. I will go to Reels if I want to scroll anything. I have 52,000 followers on TikTok, and brands want to run a short across all 3, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, and TikTok. And the fact that I can say I have like 350,000 followers across all of those, or 300,000 across all of them, it is a selling point for brands. And until they stop caring about TikTok, I'm going to keep it at least just to post that. And basically the content I'm posting is my reel. I make a short form video and I just post it on Instagram and TikTok with exactly the same caption, exactly the same video. The amount of work I put into TikTok every week is maybe 15 minutes because I'm just posting the video. But I keep it as a creator strictly for possible brand deals. But otherwise, yeah, I probably wouldn't have it.
I think that what you said about the whatever Dr. Pepper person, lady thing, you're right. That doesn't happen on Instagram, but that's because the brand Dr. Pepper thought. I mean, I'm assuming it probably blew up.
It did,
right?
Like millions of views.
So it's like, again, I have not seen this, so I'm passing no judgment on the person who posted that video. And anyway, it didn't have to be good. It just got a lot of attention, and that's why they made a commercial about it.
Correct.
So like, I actually would say, and this is a challenge for me. I don't want an algorithm to just feed me stuff from like when I never scroll the Reels feed in Instagram. I literally why do you want that?
If you're scrolling the home tab, you're basically scrolling Reels now.
So that is true, but at least occasionally I will see a actual post from a person that I know in that tab, right? But
sure.
The thing I spend the most time is stories, because I only really see stories from people I actually know.
Right.
And I will also then scroll through the feed, and you're right, a lot of what I'm seeing is actually Reels, but that's because if you post a video as a post, Instagram just says it's a reel. Like, it doesn't matter like what your intentions were and that kind of thing. And if you post something as a video and you allow it to be a reel, it just says we'll show this to more people. So like, fine. But I just feel like I don't know that, like, I don't know. The audience is different. I feel like Instagram is a little bit, I don't know. I'm old. I'm super old. I understand that. But
those just listening, if this is your first episode, Jason is 83 years old.
I am. I'm a 83-year-old in the body of a 46-year-old.
That's right.
Anyway.
Also, we love everyone over 80 that listens. Thank you for listening.
Both of you. We love you. Anyway, but I feel like I don't know. I just think I don't think that what has happened to TikTok solves the problem that anyone thought that it would solve. I feel like it's just like we're all pretending like there's not this problem, and also I'm guessing that it seems to have solved it in a way that's making the experience worse for people, and so we'll see what happens.
It seems so, and I do think that is the other big difference is the age demographic that these apps appeal to. You do see on Instagram Reels, there's way more like family mom content as well as like fitness 30, 40s and over. Like you see that on TikTok, but TikTok, again, you see way more like college age kids and stuff like that. And so there's that age demographic that Instagram has not figured out how to, move their demographic down as well as up.
Yeah. But I mean, we will not, like, I'll just say it. Our kids, our oldest two, our daughters who are both in high school, have Instagram accounts. Neither of them have TikTok. Like, nope.
Do they want to? Like, do they ever say like, hey, can we finally get a TikTok account?
A little occasionally. Our compromise is that we let them have Snapchat. Okay, because it's because that is a thing that is used for a lot of group messaging for teenagers. Is Snapchat.
Sure.
I don't love it. I would prefer that our children, but also like one of them will be in college next year, and
all bets are off.
She actually, well, not necessarily, but she even said to me like, "So, will I have to send screen time requests when I'm in college?" I'm like, "No, no, I'm not. You're in college. Like, this is not sustainable forever. I don't want screen time requests at 2 a.m. like when you're doing college. Like, no. But my whole point of doing this for the last however long is to hopefully have established habits for you that you will just sort of you will work your way out of them, but you will do it in a responsible way.
Right. Very true. All right. Well, speaking of habits, let's do a couple personal tech items.
Amazing.
You put something in these notes.
I didn't look. Did I? Oh, yes, I did. Okay. It's just not under personal tech. I got it.
Right. But we'll call it personal tech. Tell me, I stopped paying for Perplexity finally. Yeah. Did you stop paying for something?
I stopped paying for ChatGPT, which is insane because I use it all the time. But.
Right.
Okay. So let's be clear. I'm a little bit doing an experiment. And I'm going to just use Gemini for a while. And actually, for some of the things that I do, I think Gemini's better. We talked about that.
Yes.
And then I was scrolling through the tab of subscriptions on my phone the other day, and I was like, I should stop paying for that. I should stop. There was a lot of things that I found out that I'm paying for that I'm like, for example, I had the Logic and Final Cut subscriptions on my iPad.
Right.
Do you want to know the number of times I've opened either of them?
Once.
I opened Logic once to test the stem splitting. And I opened Final Cut once when I did when I recorded a video podcast on location somewhere, and we did the whole multicam thing. That's it. I'm like, well, I don't need to keep paying $49 a year for these two things. And then there were several other things that I'm like, why am I paying for Paramount Plus? We get that through like our Walmart Plus subscription. Like I had a bunch of these things where I'm like, oh, and one of them was ChatGPT, and it's like, oh, this renews tomorrow. And I was like, how about I not renew it tomorrow?
Right.
And then I'm going to kind of just see how I feel about exclusively using Gemini for all of the things I use. And I will say for most of the work I want it to do, it does almost as good of a job, except I have to remind it of some things. Okay. Like, whereas I had dialed in the custom GPT for ChatGPT for things, whereas with Gemini, I feel like the mean output is better. It's closer to what I want it to do. But I find I have to like tell it. I don't know how to make it just remember some of these things. So what I've done is like, it'll get. I did a test. I said, write me this article. It wrote me an article. I then actually wrote the article I wanted to publish. Okay, and then I fed it into it. I said, this was my published article. Compare the difference. Like, and it actually was useful because it's like, oh, you don't like dramatic flair. I'm like, only when I'm podcasting, not when I'm writing. I don't like dramatic flair when I'm podcasting. Right. I was writing this article, and so I had ChatGPT write it. I had Gemini write the article, and then I fed mine into it, and then I wanted to see how well it would do at like the changes. I wanted to compare the changes between what I wrote and what it had written and internalize that. So then I said, okay, now write this other article on a completely unrelated topic. And one of the things I had written is that like the reason companies make the kind of change that Starbucks made is because it tilts it in favor of the house. Like that's like a casino reference or whatever. And so then I wrote about the Tesla change this morning, and so I had it didn't write that article, but I had it write an article, and literally like the second paragraph is like, Elon Musk wants to make robots because it will tilt that in favor of the house. I'm like, no. I didn't want you to actually I don't use only 4 phrases. Like I just wanted you to understand the difference between
Creator Studio tilts it in favor of the house.
Like this is not my catchphrase. I just needed to like
the worst catchphrase ever.
No, it's like
Jason the superhero.
Wow. So I had to just kind of give it a little bit of a nudge in the right direction and just say then no, this is not what I meant. And so whereas ChatGPT, once I set up that my own custom GPT or whatever, it did a great job with that. So, but I'm going to only use Gemini. It's super easy in the App Store to just resubscribe to ChatGPT if I want to do that. I thought about subscribing to the $8 a month one so I could get an experience with that. But the idea of ads showing up makes me like lose my mind. I pay for YouTube Premium so I don't have to see those ads, right? I'm willing to. And so anyway, that's where I'm at. I'm all in right now on Gemini. The problem is that now I'm going to have to replace the Gemini app on my home. Like I'm going to put the Gemini app on my home screen instead of the ChatGPT app. So,
well, it's funny you should mention that, because I replaced the Perplexity app on my home screen with Gemini, and I've been every time I make a video now, which I've talked about my ChatGPT process before, I've now been A/B testing. I'll give Gemini my transcript, ChatGPT, my custom GPT, my transcript, give it the same prompt. And I do, in fact, like the results I get from Gemini better. And I'm going to tell you the same thing I told you with ChatGPT. I created a custom Gemini gem, which is a terrible name, but it's something you can do. And you can give it those specific instructions for how it should interact with you and kind of results or whatever. And so I created a custom Gemini gem, like I did a custom GPT for my YouTube videos specifically. And I get really good answers. Even down to like, I mentioned 2 specific videos at the end of every video for like the end card on YouTube. Like, this is my video on shortcuts. This is my video on my home tour. And like the custom GPT and ChatGPT could never tell me what those videos are. In my prompt, I ask it every time, give me a title, description, tags, give me some 10 more title options, and tell me the last 2 videos I call out at the end of the transcript. ChatGPT would make it up all the time. It's like, oh, you mentioned iOS 18 and you mentioned Google Home. It's like, no, I didn't do that. It would just make up the videos I mentioned. And for some reason, Gemini accurately tells me the 2 videos that I mention at the end of every video pretty much every time. And I'm like, okay. And I thought, like you, maybe I'll cancel my ChatGPT subscription. And I was like, oh, but wait a minute. What about the ChatGPT Plus features built into iOS 26? And then I realized, wait a minute. I don't use any of those.
Yeah.
I was like, I use ChatGPT in shortcuts, but that has nothing to do with this paying subscription. That's literally just the shortcuts action. If I wanted to ask the voice assistant something and say using ChatGPT, that's free. You don't have to pay for that. And
you just don't get it stored in your account, which you probably don't care about that much.
Which I don't care about anymore. So like you, I'm now on the fence about canceling my ChatGPT subscription and just being all in on Gemini. But when it comes to my video process, my now just general web queries, just things that I'm asking, what I used to ask Perplexity and what I used to do in ChatGPT for workflow, I'm doing it all in Gemini. I still don't like that I have to go to a website. I really hope they release a Mac app. And for those that are asking, like, have they ever said they're going to release a Mac app? There's actually someone on the Google Gemini team, I forget his name, but he tweeted a couple months ago that they were working on a Mac app specifically for Gemini. And so that looks like it will come eventually. And
and that was my biggest complaint is I really like the ChatGPT app. I cannot rationalize or explain why this is the case, but I only use Gemini in Safari. Go figure. I only use it in Safari, and that's fine. It may be because of the whole which of my Google accounts is logged in thing, and it's for sure the primary there. But the one thing I really appreciated that I meant to mention before is that Gemini does this way better than ChatGPT. So I did not do this in this case because I'm not paying for ChatGPT anymore. So who knows what the results were going to be. But if I would have given that the Tesla thing, for example, write an article about this, it would do that, but it would have made up quotes that aren't real about it. Because all I did was tell it what was happening. And I think I might have given it some of the paragraphs from like a CNBC article. So because I was like, you need some context. But Google with Gemini just went out and found all the contacts, and it must have found the quotes or the transcripts because it gave quotes that were those things. Now, I was like, no, that can't be real. So I'm going out and looking for, I'm like, oh, this is literally exactly the way he described it, which was really helpful. Whereas with ChatGPT, it would have just been like, Elon Musk said, if you have a Model S, you should burn it because robots are coming. Like, it's like, he didn't say that. Like, that's not a real thing. But ChatGPT would just be like, whatever, YOLO. That's like, here's a quote.
Exactly. So, well, that's my experience. It's kind of crazy how good Gemini has been getting. But one other personal tech, and then we have the bonus content that you alluded to. I want to talk about you. I need you to tell me about the Starbucks thing because it was under embargo until an hour ago.
It was under embargo until like 8:45, which is the worst. I'm sorry, companies. This is the worst possible time for you to do because like I can't publish my article, and it was not just under embargo until 8:45. It was under embargo until they said certain words this morning at their investor day.
Oh.
And so they're like, you can publish anytime after this. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to publish it after the podcast. So I will give Steven a link to the article if you listen to the bonus episode and you want to read the article.
Yeah. But last personal tech. I used Apple Invites, Jason. We're having some people over for the Super Bowl. Okay. And I was like, prime opportunity to use Apple Invites. So I created a whole event in Apple Invites. And we have a variety of users coming, meaning both iPhone and Android. Here's my Super Bowl invite. And have the date. And I even put some stuff in the description. I had Apple Intelligence generate that image, which cool. That's fine. So I sent this invite out, right? Ironically, I have friends who use Android. They went through the rigmarole of either signing in with their Apple ID that they might have had or creating one so they could RSVP to the event. And so they've RSVP'd.
Which is a terrible user flow, by the way.
100%. I don't think you need to create one. I think you can load it in a web browser and RSVP without creating an account. I'm not sure.
I sure hope so, because that would be terrible.
But I then sent it to other friends who have iPhones. And apparently if you don't have the Invites app installed, which if you have it installed, you're already logged into your iCloud account and you can just accept invites like with one tap. It was prompting, it loaded in their browser and it wanted them to sign into their iCloud account in their browser. And so because they don't have the app on their phone, and maybe the app card came down from the bottom like, hey, download invites. But if they didn't want to do that, they're being prompted to sign into their iCloud account in Safari on their iPhone to RSVP. And so they met me later and they were like, hey, I got your invite for this thing, but you wanted me to sign in. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So yeah, we're coming. And I was like, all right, this is a fail. Like, I understand in Apple's ideal world, everyone has the Apple Invites app on their iPhone. And if you send an invite, you just get a little push notification. There's an accept or reject or whatever. And you just RSVP and it's just like done. But Invites doesn't come pre-installed on phones, especially if you have, I don't think even now. And so you have to download it from the App Store. Most people probably don't know about it, probably don't have it. And so the experience, even on an iPhone, is that it loads in Safari and then prompts them to sign into their iCloud, which, to people's credit, I think are a little leery about logging in
100%
with their iCloud account to something they don't recognize. They're not going to RSVP. So the only ones that, and I sent this to like 5 or 6 different families. The only 2 that officially RSVP'd in the Invites app are my Android friends. And none of my Apple friends who use iPhone and all the Apple stuff have RSVP'd because they have to do this weird sign in with iCloud thing and they're not going to do it. So
it should just send them a tokenized link that they can just tap like a calendar invite. You can just accept it and then it just sends you the accept. And then maybe just add, maybe they should have just made this a feature of calendar.
Well, and I think if you send it to their email address, I think they would have gotten an email and maybe it might have been easier to accept or reject it. But I was sending it to a bunch of different people, so I just copied the link to the event on my clipboard and I sent that link to everyone. And I think when you send that kind of link, Apple is not tokenizing it or not doing something to it. So maybe I should have done like the official invite guests and choose their email address instead. But I don't know, the way I did it and the way I assume most people, okay, I'll just get the link and I'll send it in a group text or I'll just text it to a bunch of people. And apparently it's not a good experience.
Well, so, and the reason is because they want you to use the Invites app because that's where like the shared photo thing is and all that stuff. Otherwise, like literally you could have just sent a calendar invite.
Yeah. So I'm still using it for the countdown widget for Shortcuts University. That's cool. Like I got that event in here. But for actually using it for an actual event with real people, it's not the best experience.
Not great, huh?
So that was you were right, Jason. But I'm not putting that in a short. You're not going to see a short of me saying you were right,
You will
Jason.
never see a short that says you
Never.
were right, Jason.
I'll delete it if I happen to see it pop up. So anyway, that's my Apple Invites experience. Let us know. Leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Let us know what AI you're using. Are you on Gemini? Have you used Apple Invites to actually invite people and people actually RSVP? If you use Clawdbot, now Moltbot, whatever you want to know.
There was one at the beginning we were talking about. What was it?
It was the thing at the beginning. AirTag?
You all know.
You all know.
All of you listening know what it was. We can never remember what it was, but you guys all know.
There was something back there, though. Leave us a 5-star rating and review in Apple Podcasts. Help us to get to where I think we're at 400 something now, which is pretty wild. Let's get to 500, then 1,000. You can also watch the show, youtube.com/@primarytechshow. All these links are in the show notes as well. You can email us, follow us on social media, all the things to support the show. You get a pre-show, our unedited feed, Primary Tech Daily. All of that, you can either do it directly in Apple Podcasts or go to join.primarytech.fm and support the show there. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time.